Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's your boy Barlo-B-Theorizing, and welcome back to the Barlow Zone, home of the one and only demon hunter King Kaido himself sent to Azeroth. How's everybody doing today? I hope y'all having a beautiful day like it is where I'm at. Man, it's nice and sunny and warm out. I can't wait. Get this hoodie off, get outside, get a little more sunshine in the skin. But I wanted to start off this one with a quick update because I know in my last video I mentioned I had three theories, three ideas I wanted to try and research a little bit more. Some things I found really interesting about the chapter, right? And I am working on one of them. I've been running some polls. I did get one response on here on YouTube. I might go ahead and double down, run that poll back this afternoon because I would like a little more input than one, but I did get about 50 responses on the poll on Tumblr. So I'm hoping, at least more than one response on YouTube just to make sure I've got some decent data to work with on that one. But as far as the Gart plan angle and the connection between Herald and Dragon, as I was researching, trying to find old panels, just stuff that generally I like to have to support a theory, right? I found that the theories weren't going to be so much theories as much as fan fiction, just stories I thought were really cool that could play out but weren't really supported by too much evidence from the actual source material, right? And I try to, I don't know, I guess maintain an internal integrity when it comes to my theory crafting, right? I don't want to just start spouting off a bunch of stuff that's unsupported by the story. Not taking anything away from that. I read a really cool Usopp fan fiction on Tumblr yesterday. Kind of pitted Frankie, Robin, Usopp, and Chopper in kind of a spy family type thing against Zoro, Mihawk, and Perona. It was really cool read. And if you're on Tumblr, you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend go find the Usopp fan club. It's worth a read. I really enjoyed it. But there's a difference between fan fiction and theory crafting, right? Well, I could probably come up with a decent fanfic. It's not really what I enjoy. I want to present stuff that could be supported by the source material. So in the spirit of that, with wanting to hold off until I get a little more data from the community as far as my Shanks theory, I still wanted to come and talk to y'all today because there is something else I've seen floating around that has caught my interest, and I will admit it. Some of this is original thought, but I was heavily inspired and became interested in this because of the One Piece community on Tumblr and something Tekking said in his 1157 chapter review, as well as another channel mentioning that, it might not really be worth looking into, or they weren't interested in it, something like that. Not throwing shade at anybody. Just the things I find interesting aren't always the same things that other channels are going to find interesting, right? And things that they like aren't going to be things I want to discuss, and that's cool. That genuinely helps build the community because there's more people talking about more things, sparking more conversations. And at the end of the day, when it comes to theory crafting, that's the most important thing, having as many brains on the job as you can muster. So I definitely want to make sure I give a big shout out when I get to the bit on Tumblr. I was talking to a couple different people, so I can't remember what the name of the person. I'll make sure I put it up here. I did grab that screenshot, and I did have a quick conversation in the comments with the guy or girl, the person. They mentioned they don't have a channel. They liked that I liked their theory and did tell me it'd be okay to present it. So I'll make sure I give them credit when that part of the theory comes up, right? And I'm probably not going to screenshot Tekking's thumbnail or nothing like that. I'm sure if y'all are here, y'all have already been there, so you're probably already pretty familiar with the video I'm going to be referring to. But I will make sure I give him his credit when I get to the part concerning his video as well. But what would I like to talk about, right? The interesting thing, the thing that has been brought to my attention and made interesting by others is this idea of who the traitor on the Rocks Pirates is, right? Who is the snake in the rocks, as it were? Because yeah, we've been told they're kind of a crew that's always stabbing each other in the back, right? They're a crew that's always looking out for themselves, got their own plan, their own goals, and they're only here with Rocks because he wanted Davy back fight and they have no choice. Which, cool. The last time we saw a gimmick like that was Foxy, and love him or hate him, I doubt many people love him, but even at the time during Long Ring Long Land, you kind of felt like the gimmick could have been done a little bit better, right? Like the gimmick was led by another gimmick itself that wasn't entirely intriguing, at least compared to a lot of what we had been getting, even just up to that point. So I'd just like to go over a few things because, like I said, I came across a theory on Tumblr that presented a really solid argument for somebody. Matt over at Tekking101 presented another argument that was super solid and convincing, but while I like both of their ideas, neither of them are who I have found to be the one I think is the snake, right? So I think I'd like to start off with the Big Mom theory. I'm gonna kind of go over a quick synopsis of it. I will get that screenshot up here so y'all can see the original poster and what they said directly. But long story short, it came down to the fact that we already know Big Mom has a plan of her own, right? She's got her own nation. Uh, Tataland is currently, at least in its infancy, at the point where 1157 left off 42 years ago, right? So it is plausible that Big Mom, in trying to make her dream her reality, right, realized that, okay, eventually Rox is going to be holding me back. Like, yeah, he's giving me opportunities for now, but if he doesn't come through, then I may have to find a way to deal with this because he is going to prevent me from achieving my own dream. And that's solid logic for somebody betraying somebody else, right? Like, especially considering the person doesn't really want to be there to begin with. They're there by force more than by choice. So I wanted to take a second because I had a really cool conversation with this person, and I asked the question because the only real hole I saw in their original presentation was, why did she give up the devil fruit to Kaido, right? Like, why would she get rid of this awesome, incredible power to somebody that we're supposed to believe she's not supremely connected to, somebody we're supposed to believe was potentially even a rival at the time? Like, why would she give up such a powerful devil fruit to a kid who she had no assurances was going to be on her side? And they had it ready, they had it locked and loaded. They came back like, it's Big Mom's art. Just, she cares about the kids, right? And at the time, Kaido's like 15, 16, something like that. He's still a teenager. He's still a kid. So it could have just been like they presented a situation where Big Mom saw a kid about to die, somebody that she had connected with at least on some level, and that instinct, that insatiable appetite, hunger pangs kind of kicked in. Obviously not the hunger pangs, because she didn't go on an eating rampage, but the same kind of idea. And I felt like that theory was really solid and really well thought out, and it really kind of got me thinking and considering the angle that Big Mom is the one that ultimately led to the downfall of the Rocks Pirates. But I also mentioned Tekking presented an idea that I thought was pretty cool as well, right? So we're going to go ahead and transition over to that. And that would be his angle on Kyo the Hitman. Good old Silver Axe himself, right? And the logic he presented also tracks really well with in universe logic and reasoning, right? Because he pointed, and full credit where credit is due. I didn't realize this. I read have been reading chapters at least since the end of Wano 2, sometimes 3 times, because some of these chapters have been incredibly deep, right? And I try to pride myself on picking up on the little details and all that, but I do have to admit I failed on this one, and thank God Matt was there with his video, because he pointed out to me Kyo is the only one who made the choice to join the Rock's crew, right? His allegiance wasn't won through a Davy backfight with another pirate crew. He showed up on Hachinosu out of nowhere and was all, I've come to join the Rock's pirates. That's a little sus. And at minimum, a reason to be suspicious of this guy. Like Matt presented, was he sent by the world government as an agent? Now, the part where I do disagree with what Matt was saying is that because he presented the idea that Kyo was the admiral that was presumed to be killed by rocks at the reverie, right? And the only reason I disagree with that, like, sure, maybe they changed up his outfit a little bit, right? But Rocks has been presented as a rather intelligent character so far, right? And if this rando showed up on his island talking about I've come to join the crew, and it's also the person that he supposedly killed on Marie-Joie, Rocks would identify that. He'd be all, nah, bro. Hey, y'all get him. This is the guy that they said I killed. Looks like I didn't. So, no, we handling this right now. If it was Zephyr, as Matt, kind of predicted, I personally, now this is just me, I admit that, I personally believe the Rocks that we have been getting to know would have been smart enough to identify that. Beyond, nah, you gotta go, or you gotta die, or something. Like, there's no way Rocks lets the admiral that he was given credit for killing join his pirate crew. That is beyond sus to a man that's been presented as intelligent as Rocks has so far. He's not someone out here just doing all this stuff because he's strong enough to. He's got a plan. He's smart enough to convince these people to stick around, because we also got to remember, in, I believe it was the end of the last chapter, he had this line where he's all, if you choose to continue following me. So yeah, sure, he won the loyalties of these people through the Davy backfight, but their continued allegiance has proven to be a choice they made. Like, okay, so it probably, this is kind of headcanon, call it fan fiction, he probably won them all over, right? Set out 2 years ago and succeeded in a big raid, and they were all like, okay, no, this guy's about that business, right? Like, he ain't just running his mouth. He has a plan. He's gunning for it. He's strong, so he might be able to do it. Let me roll with him for a while. Either way, no matter how it played out in the beginning, that line lets us know that their continued loyalty or allegiance to him has been a choice that they made. So it is a little bit weird that this guy showed up out of nowhere, right? World government plant, maybe. Plant by another pirate crew, perhaps. As it stands, though, while the thought is really entertaining, really intriguing, and tracks logically with the series, Kyo, as it stands, is an enigma on the level of Shanks. Like, he came out of nowhere. We know almost nothing about him other than the fact he's a mercenary who evidently is good enough at his job that the title Hitman has been bestowed upon him. Like that kind of indicates he's a man who is feared somewhere in the world, whether by pirates or world government agents. Somebody fears this man to the point where they gave him the epithet the Hitman. So, I wanted to present those two ideas because I really like them, right? Like as a theory crafter, what I try to do, that the logic tracks, and that's always where I try to come in on theories. But I'll be honest, I don't personally believe either of them are the traitor. I don't think Kyo or Big Mom is the snake in the rocks at the current time. Now, obviously, we're still in the midst of this flashback. Another panel could come up. We could get multiple pages talking about what happened, who betrayed him. Like, we might get hard confirmation on who the traitor was. We might not. It might just be alluded to because it's not really important who betrayed Rox, right? Because at the end of the day, all that's really important is that Rox fell. What he was trying to do fell short of the goal, fumbled at the 1 yard line, whatever it ended up being. The actual, and I admit, the actual important part is that Rox failed. That's the one thing we can take to the bank, the one thing we can bank on knowing is going to be important. Whereas, who betrayed him, who led to the downfall might not be. That being said, I do have a couple ideas of my own. I'm going to start with the first one. I'm going to start with strictly because of things I've been seeing and hearing pertaining to the cover story this week, right? Some people are theorizing that the grave that Yamato, Page One, and Ulti were visiting is the grave of Shiki. Nobody's presented a full-blown theory about it yet, but his name has been in the mix with a decent number of people. But Shiki's still alive. Like, dude is still out there somewhere doing something, setting something up, because the last time we heard from him, he was announcing 20 years from now, my plan is going to pop off. And it just so happens that we are at 20 years from when he said that. So this kind of shows us that not only did he have a plan of his own, something, a dream perhaps, he had a goal in mind the entire time, right? And because he's leading his, or at least was up until the Shiki Rogers flashback, he was leading his own grand fleet. And it's entirely possible that after the fall of Rogers, people are, oh, Shiki's still around, let me go align with him. It wouldn't be difficult to believe that he was able to rebuild some kind of fleet. Maybe not as strong, maybe more powerful. We haven't really heard from him since he announced that 20 years from now, my plan is going to come to fruition. But that's the point. He's still alive. And he has reason. I know I mentioned this earlier. I know we've been told the Rox crew were a bunch of traitors and backstabbers and just a group of treacherous individuals who are always looking out for themselves, right? But when we take a look at the panels we've been given, Shiki is the only one so far who has actively been portrayed on panel betraying another crew member. In this chapter, we got the black powder bomb, Shiki trying to blow up Kyo, Whitebeard, and Kaido, right? Obviously didn't work because, Papa Newgate is a beast. That fool, he wasn't about to die, and he wasn't about to let his little brother Kaido die in that moment. I am, until further notice, going to continue to refer to Kaido as Whitebeard's little brother because that's how the chapter kind of portrayed their relationship with the whole mini discussion about the devil fruit. But because he is the only one at this point in the flashback who has been actively portrayed doing something treacherous to other crew members, I don't consider infighting treachery. Like, we're talking about pirates. We're talking about people that most would consider the scum of the earth. Luffy's crew is kind of an enigma. Like, these Nakama type crews are kind of an enigma among the pirates. Like, pirates are treacherous. They're gonna fight. They're going to seek more power. And I think the infighting is just that. It's just these fools always wanting to test each other, always poking and prodding, like, "Hey, are you still strong? Can I take you yet?" Because competition builds strength and community. So even without meaning to, while most of them may have joined through the Davy back fights, right? The infighting, the continued loyalty to each other, it's it almost sets up the Rock's crew as coming into a Nakama of their own through their own path, right? They didn't choose to be brothers and sisters, but because of the time spent together, the accomplishments together, a bond started to form with some of them. But Shiki was still willing to blow up three of his brothers just for the possibility of a bit more loot, right? I like that theory a bit more than the Big Mom or Kyo angle so far. Now, I did say I came up with two, so I'm going to go ahead and present Ochoko now, because while he may not have been presented in a treacherous manner on panel so far, he did take over Hachinosu after the fall of rocks. You know, up until the point Teach, Law, and Kobe came in, the Rocky Port incident, toppling Ochoko, Blackbeard taking control of Hachinosu, he was the one who took over his captain's post, right? So that kind of tells us, while he may not so far have been willing to actively stab one of his crew members in the back, he kind of was always planning for the worst, right? You know, he maybe saw, like, okay, yeah, you know, I might like some of these guys, but we ain't got good teamwork, we ain't got good coordination, eventually this is gonna fall apart. So started putting his own plan together, right? And turns out part of that plan was taking up his captain's post. So could it have been near the end, right, as we're rolling up on God Valley, it was becoming clear, and Ochoko's like, okay, this is gonna go awful. We don't have the power to raid a world government location like God Valley, but Rox is still talking about, let's do it. It might be time to call it quits on this and enact my own plan. So it's possible Ochoko, you know, you use that Den Den Mushi, being one of only two people that used one in this chapter, to get a hold of the world government. Now, I do want to end off, because while I did mention I'm not quite convinced about the Big Mom angle yet, right? I see the logic there. I really appreciated the work that the original poster put into the theory, and I thought it was something that needed to be said. So I did want to make sure I mentioned it while I'm here talking about my own theories about who the snake in the rocks is, right? And I don't feel like at this point I can lean into the idea it was Big Mom, Kaido, or Whitebeard. Admittedly, the connection between Big Mom and Whitebeard is a little long walk for a short drink of water type thing. While I obviously did point out in my last video that Whitebeard and Kaido have kind of been put into this frame now where it's like big brother, little brother type thing. Kaido and Big Mom had a respect. Evidently, she gave up a powerful devil fruit that could have been used by one of her own kids to save Kaido, and then followed that up with Kaido returning the favor and creating an alliance with her during Wano. the three of them as a dynamic don't quite feel like the type of person that would align with the world government, even if it meant bringing down somebody they knew they couldn't, right? But somebody like Shiki, who we saw actively stabbing one of his friends in the back in this chapter, right? Or somebody like Ochoko, who took up the mantle that his captain was uh, I don't know, not really wearing. I guess took up the position that his captain was in, right? These two seem a little more on the nose to me. Even the Kyo angle, I I don't quite feel like there's enough to call that a theory. I really like it as fan fiction, right? It kind of tracks, but and I'll go ahead and throw myself under the bus here as well. It's kind of like the Tritoma angle. We all took something that was small and inflated it to the point of like, okay, we found the logic to make it track as a theory, but we kind of had to dig for some of that logic. We kind of had to become an archaeologist to find the proof of some of this, right? So just because, Big Mom Kaido and Whitebeard have constantly proven they refuse to align with the world government, while I really enjoyed the presentation, and if you're watching, brother, I want you to know, hey, I appreciate you because you and Matt inspired the creation of this video. I'm not quite on board with it just yet, but I am holding it there. It is going to remain in my mind because it's logical and it tracks, and the same with Kyo. Now, these are, I guess, the two theories I've seen that really seem to track, as well as my ideas for who the traitor probably is. So if this is something you found interesting enough to, take what looks like going on about 28 minutes of your day to be here with me, I'd love to hear back from you. Who do you think the traitor is? Is it somebody I'm not even considering? Is it somebody other channels aren't considering? What are you seeing that I'm not? Because I would love to hear back from that. I always enjoy when my theories get torn apart because it only makes them stronger. And, as always, don't forget to check me out on Tumblr at Barlo-B-Theorizing. I haven't posted in a couple days on X. I'm probably going to post the video because that's been the bare minimum I've been posting over there, just presenting my videos on that platform. And that is also Barlo-B-Theorizing. And then, as always, feel free to join me in the Barlo Zone. The link to the Discord will be in the bio. I am dropping a fresh link every week, so if the one you're trying to use right now isn't working, check out the description in my latest video. That should get you to the community. And as always, I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Much love, friends.